And many of us, even I myself, was not knowing that he started his career as a scientific assistant in Bhabha Atomic Research Center. He had published paper on xenoism and anti-xenoism in solvent extractions. Sir is a qualified lawyer and a member of the Bar Council, an income tax officer during 1983 and 84. He also worked as a deputy secretary in the rural development area, government of Maharashtra. During 2006 and 2010, he was the general manager in the Brooklyn Mumbai Electric Supply and Transport, what we call as BEST, BEST. He has penned down number of articles. Not only that, Sangharsh Yatri is one of the best sellers now. He has penned 3 books. Sangharsh Yatri, a memoir published by Rajan's Publications, Pune. One of the books is Our Struggle Has Begun. It is a collection of public speeches that he has delivered as a radical administrator. With a big round of applause, may I call Shri Uttam Khobragade.
Chairman of the EAS, Chief Governor, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I feel honored to be in this organization to speak on the eve of Jayanti of a person and who, by any standard, is the greatest Indian of the modern era. By any standard, I will come to that afterwards. Today is the 1st May, the Labor Day as well as the Maharashtra Day. And this day has a relevance to Ambedkar's life. Perhaps many may not be aware that Sanyukta Maharashtra, 1st May is the day when Sanyukta Maharashtra was created. And there was a long struggle, at least 2 years. More than 200 people sacrificed their life, and this struggle was led by 3 or 4 persons, and prominent among them was Dr. Ambedkar. Second was Prabodh Thackeray, and third was the P.K. Adhyaksh, a great. So the Maharashtra Day has a relevance to Ambedkar's life. Today is the Labor Day again, and Dr. Ambedkar pronounced very openly in 1927 that I represent the labor class. So this both days have some relevance to Dr. Ambedkar's life. Rather, he was a leading leader of Maharashtra agitation. He was a representative of the labor class, and to cap it, he was the greatest statesman. In fact, recently Shashi Tharoor wrote in a book, very interesting. He said he is the only statesman who grew taller and taller after his death. Otherwise, after the death, people forget. Who remembers the people? But his stature has increased with every day. Recently, 5 years ago, there was a survey of some TV which is in expert survey. Then he was educated as the greatest Indian of the era, not Gandhi. There was a survey all over India, and he was educated as the greatest man of the India. Only yesterday, Telangana Chief Minister inaugurated new secretariat named Dr. Ambedkar. What is the magic of this Dr. Ambedkar? Why when other people are getting correct? Everybody, including the people who criticized Ambedkar when he was leaving, who thrown on the parliament street saying, down with Ambedkar, today trying to prove that they are Ambedkarian. And they are taking more efforts than any of us to say that, to prove that they are disciples of Ambedkar. What is the break in this ideology? In fact, when Mr. Mane requested me. I was tempted. I thought, oh, let me go to the organization where I started my first government job. Because after that, I left. Only interaction was with when I addressed Ambedkar Jayanti, Nuclear Power Corporation. Then second time when I got a call from Mr. Mane that, sir, there should not be any controversy. I was a little upset. I thought I will say, done with your function, I am not done. But I said, I should not leave this opportunity to interact with you all people because of some preposterous suggestion by Mr. Mane or his lack of knowledge. Well, now coming to what I start with the controversy. In 1932, the Arya Samaj, you must have heard the Arya Samaj, who were supposed to agitate for the reform in the Hindu society. They organized a Jat-Pal Toda as Mahasabha in Lahore. From where it names it, that it is to remove the casteism from the Indian society. Dr. Ambedkar was requested to deliver the presidential speech. He accepted the invitation. Then he made a speech after all efforts. And he sent it to the organizer, Arya Samaj. Then a couple of them say, a couple of lines were very harsh, so-called controversial. They requested Ambedkar, please drop these 3 or 4 lines from the speech. Dr. Ambedkar said, I will not drop a single word, leave up the line or para. Whether to invite me or not, it is your failure, not mine. That's why I said it's a preposterous suggestion by Mr. Mane. Then lastly, they could not know, they have no courage to listen to Ambedkar's revolutionary thought. They could not change the chairperson, so they answered. But Dr. Ambedkar, that which speech he had prepared, published as a book, and that is titled as an Annihilation of the Caste. And this is the most wonderful book written on the caste ever. I read it 10 times. I read that book 10 times. Not only that, but someday in 2015, when 75th year of the book was completed, Arundhati Rai, one of the greatest writers of the India's present, one of the revolutionary, very articulate, she wrote a book, a critique on that book, which is titled as Saint and Doctor. This critique on the book, book is only 200 pages, the critique by Arundhati Rai is 380 pages with 400 and odd references. That was the power of Ambedkar's thought and the rest of the process. Now, friends, as I told you, he's been getting tolerant of his day. But when he was alive, there were many people who wanted to present. Do we understand what is the contribution of the Ambedkar to the Indian society? Can anybody have tell? Everybody says simply that he was the father of the Constitution. Then he was making a struggle for the upliftment of depressed class. Exactly. These are all understatements. He is becoming taller and taller. There are a couple of things. Number one, by any standards, he was the most educated Indian. Tell me the man, whether before independence, after independence, who got a PhD from the Columbia University by writing a wonderful thesis, Caste in India. It is in sociology. Who has a PhD from London School of Economics on the book title is a Problem of the Rupee. He has a BSc. Then again he has a PhD from London University on the political science and to cabinet barrister. Tell me a single person who studied so many various subjects, penned down some wonderful books. So by sheer knowledge and intelligence, he was the greatest Indian and rightly educated soul. Now I'm coming to the problem of the rupee. Everybody say, yes, Baba Sahib was the father of the Indian Constitution. Dr. Magulkar wrote a thesis for his BSc, which is titled A Problem of the Rupee. And you know, you are all from education line. Most of the people's thesis after they get a doctor gather dust in the library. Am I correct? But it was not the case with this book. Dr. Ambedkar wrote that book and came back to India when British government started developing this in Israel. The ideas were so revolutionary that a royal commission was appointed, which constituted 8 people from industry, from economics, and they were sent to India, interview Dr. Ambedkar on this book. It was a very figure that all these 8 gentlemen, all as celebrating their own field, one of them was the GDP also. They were sitting and they were taking interview of Ambedkar on his thesis called Problem of Rupee. And they were having that book, they had written the line and they used to ask question, in this your book, in this page, on this line, you said so. We explained. That Dr. Ambedkar said that in position, I am a representative of the labor class. I told you about the labor class. When this interview of Ambedkar was over, the Royal Commission went back and then British government decided to start Reserve Bank of India based on the recommendation of Dr. Ambedkar's thesis. So he was not only the father of the Constitution, he was the idea behind the Reserve Bank of India, which was formed to decide the monetary policy of the India, to control the credit of the India, and gold standard which the Indian economy is having was the brainchild of Dr. Ambedkar. So that was the sheer knowledge he was. But yes, he faced many problems in the society. Now we all say Baba Sahib was leading a agitation for the upliftment of depressed class. As I said, it is an understatement. Dr. Ambedkar was a student of the day, one of the leading political scientists. He was also a student of the Lasky, he has read the French Revolution, Marxism, and he developed his ideology. And what are the central to the Baba? It is not only the upliftment of the Dalits. Why there is upliftment of the Dalits? Basically, Ambedkar's struggle was on 3 principles: equality, liberty, and fraternity. I will start with the equality. We all feel that just had a British left, India would have been independent. I said no. I tell you the example. Everybody said that the greatest event in the humanity is the French Revolution. Am I correct? Which was based on the again principle of liberty, equality, and fraternity. What happened in the French Revolution? The people of the France disposed the king of the France. Was the king of the France or the Indian? No, he was a French. But country has to get the independence by disposing the man who was the French. Same happened in the Russia. Russia became independence in 1918 after the Russian Revolution. Who was the Tsar of the Russia? Was he Indian? Was he British? No, he was a Russian. But it was necessary to throw away the Tsar of the Russia so that people get the independence. So there is a subtle difference between the freedom of the country and freedom of the people. Who will say during the Peshwa Indian people were independent? When they were not allowed to walk on the road, they had to put a broom on their back and pot on their neck so that they don't pull. Was it an independent country? So independence means not independence of the country. Country is a geographical domain. That the north is the Himalayas, south is the Vedic. So it is not a nation. Nation is a much broader concept than the country. So if Congress was fighting for the independence of the country, not for the people of the country. And this was very rightly observed by Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. He said, all this Congress struggle is just to get back the glory to the exploited class. It is not for the freedom of the people. So that struggle was for the freedom of the country, and Baba Sahib's struggle was freedom of the people of India. Not reason. But it doesn't make that. For 2000 years they were slave, 100 more years. But that what independence we would have got, it was a hazard. It is a fraud. So at the same time, Dr. Ambedkar wanted not only country should be free from the British, but the people also should be free. People also should get the freedom. And what is that? That he very succinctly stated in one of the most powerful speech in the first roundtable conference, which was organized to decide the future of the India. The British had already decided that they will have to live. So what India should be? Shall we welcome back the Peshwai? So for that roundtable conference was organized, and Dr. Ambedkar, one of the most powerful speech delivered, he said, yes, I stand as a representative of the depressed classes. We also want that British must quit India. But after the British leave India, there should be government of the people, not of the few who have a free license to exploit others. But there should be government of the people. An elected government which will have a legitimacy to take the decision to initiate the social revolution in this country. Then said for that, all the classes must elect their own representative. First, recognize the individuality. Recognize the individual class. That in India, Hindu is the one class, Muslim is the second major class, and third major class is the depressed class. So every class must be recognized. You can't have independence and not recognize the human being. It is not the independence of the tree or the Ganga to flow from which direction you want. It should be the independence of the people who decide. So all this class, they must elect their own representative. And this, which will be truly representative parliament of the country. And this parliament will again sit together and govern the country. So, the diversity and the unity. Recognize every class. Give representation to the every class. So that the man who is elected by that class is responsible for the welfare of that class. And then bring them together. And there will be unity among them as how to govern this country. And that was Dr. Ambedkar's suggestion. It was such a powerful oratory from the conference, accepted that. So, basically, Baba Sahib's struggle was for the equality. Equality between the different classes, equality between the different sections of the society, and most important, I tell you most important because there are many ladies here, equality between the gender. Tell me single statesman in India who fought for the equality of the gender. Tell me, except Ambedkar. So the equality was inherent in the entire struggle. The equality between the gender. He conceptualized during his study in the Columbia University, where his colleagues, a Chinese woman They were on the street of New York demanding the equality of the equality for the woman. No? Was there equality in the Indian society before Dr. Ambedkar piloted the Hindu Code Bill? It is really a very strange that as a law minister, he drafted the Hindu Code Bill. When he was trying to get past the Hindu Code Bill, there were large people on the street who were denouncing Ambedkar, down with Ambedkar. And incidentally, there are many ladies among them. Perhaps they were not thinking, aware that he was fighting for it. So let you tell me, before Hindu Code Bill, did you have equality? You had a right in the property of your father. Did Indian society, before Ambedkar, the woman had a right in the property of the father? Yes or no? I want an answer from you. No. Means there was no equality between the man and woman. Am I correct? I will tell you other example. Before Dr. Ambedkar drafted the Hindu Code Bill, the woman in India, he had no right to divorce the husband who was a lecher, who was useless, drunkard, and he had married with one woman later. Were you allowed to divorce such a lecherous husband? No. So there was no equality. The man could marry any lady, the woman was supposed to stick to that idea. So you are unequal. Did you have a right to remarry your husband died? No. So again there were inequality. So it was not Babasaheb fought for the equality of the depressed class, but for the 50% of the population of this country, the woman. Unfortunately, the who are enjoying all the benefit because of his sacrifice, they fought. They do something. What Hindu Code Bill provided? Hindu Code Bill provided that woman will have an equal right in the property of the father. And when you are economically independent, you are not at the mercy of the husband. You won't get dowry demand because he will have his own job. So you got equality in the property matter. Hindu Code Bill provided that Hindu woman will have a right to divorce the husband if he is a lecher or is a drunkard, which earlier not. So you got equality. A man could divorce him, you got to divorce him. You got equality in that. The Hindu Code Bill provided that if a husband died, woman had a right to marry again, which was given to the man earlier. So now you have that also equality. So whom Dr. Ambedkar was fighting? Was it only for the depressed class? Or the 50% of the population of this country. So the Ambedkar struggle was, that's why I say, the Babasaheb struggle was not for only depressed classes, but for the real freedom to the people of India. The British, giving of the British would not have got a real. If they limited, Babasaheb would not have piloted a Hindu Code Bill, even today ladies would not have got the opportunity to take education. They would not have got the opportunity to inherit the wealth in fathers. So this equality and the right to live with the dignity was the central theme of Dr. Ambedkar's struggle. And yes, for the depressed class, it was the most important. The depressed classes, we are not, what was the shame that the people, what Chaudhary, a tank in the Mahad, where dogs could drink the water and men were not allowed. Don't you feel ashamed of this culture? And was it not necessary to fight against this injustice by every citizen? Everybody cannot. Dr. Ambedkar fought for them. He led a very powerful satyagraha
And it was not a matter of drinking water. That Baba Sahib so wrote in his editorial of the Vaishnav Hilkani Sabha, Vaishnav Bharat, which was the paper started by him. That it is not a water, it is a question of the principle. That we are also human beings and we are also should allow to have a dignified life. On what ground you denied us our right to drink the water? Amen. So it was not a question of right. It was a fight for equality. It was a fight for dignity. And that was the reason why he piloted Hindu country. And the thrust of his entire struggle was a dignity. But at the same time, he never accepted the violent methods for achieving his goal, his mission. It's a fact when Baba Sahib came back, he was offered a district judgeship with the promise that within 3 years he will be a high court judge. Well, there was no qualified man like him. He rejected. Then he was offered the high court judgeship, which he rejected. The Nizam of the Hyderabad offered him a chief justice, which he rejected because he had a mission. The mission was to see the India where every person he has his right. He is in position to enforce his right. Every person he has a right to live with the dignity. And there is an equality between the class, caste and the gender, which is a precondition for the democracy. In fact, when he was presenting the constitution, he very clearly said that the last speech, he said in the parliament, he said, on 26 January 1949, when the constitution came into effect, we have a equality in the political arena, but at the same time, there is an inequality in social and economic field. And it is the duty of every government to ensure that the economic and social equality is brought in the country at the earliest time. Otherwise, this political equality is of no use. It is a two sides of the same coin. Without political equality, the political equality has no meaning without the economic equality. If man is totally dependent for his economic survival, on his master, he has no money, no wealth, no job, will he free to exercise his franchise freely? No. So and that's why when he was saying, for India, the democracy is at top dressing on the soil, which is essentially undemocratic. I repeat. So he was talking about the controversy you can take down. That's why I told him, don't worry about the controversy, you record my speech. I call myself a disciple of Ambedkar. And if you go and talk to the people like you, and you don't speak your mind, it is intellectual dishonesty. Am I correct? And I cannot be part. That's why Baba Sahib refused to address the Lahore conference. I can't have it. So, for India, a democracy is a top dressing on the soil which is essentially undemocratic. There was inequality in economic life, there was inequality in the social life. So, unless this is achieved, this democracy, here is said if you fail to bring economic equality in due course, the people who are victim of this, inequality will not hesitate to throw away the pillars of the democracy. Why should they? They have nothing to lose, only chance. And that's why he made it necessary. Through the constitution which he drafted, he got an opportunity and utilized to the ill. To see that have a time. To see that any government will have to implement a program which is to bring the socio-economic equality in this country. What is the directive principle? Part 4 of the Constitution. And in fact, the directive principle clearly says that every government, they have given the list of the program, will endeavor to bring the free education up to the age of 14, abolition of the untouchability, the ensure that economic forces, economic power is not in the few hands, but it is decentralized. That the land distribution, the nationalization of the bank, constitution. In fact, there was at the beginning, when government, first Indian government wanted to bring these several laws, particularly the Land Distribution Act, to implement the directive, there was a big clash, ideological clash. That is because while implementing directive principle, which is a part 4 of the Constitution, they have to tamper with the fundamental rights which are part 3 of the Constitution. And this clash went for 15 years. Those who are more interested, they can listen to my lecture on the YouTube, which is titled as a basic structure of the Constitution, which I delivered in Ram Narayan Yadav Law College, where I visualize what is the basic structure and why there is a clash between the fundamental right and directive principle. Fortunately, the college have put in the YouTube so that anybody can approach it. This directive principle wants government to ensure that over the period there is an equality in them, so that the artificial top dressing is mixed with the proper soil in the economy. It started with this. The banks were nationalized. The Land Selling Act was implemented, though not wholeheartedly. The land of the rich was taken over by the government and distributed to the poor. And that is a great pleasure. I think Land Distribution Act was promulgated in 1962. And in 1988, while working as a sub-division magistrate of the Malkapur, I distributed land to the tenant. I could see the pleasure of their face. They were landless till yesterday. Today they are the landowners. They have a pride. They have a dignity. So, then it also provides that there should be free education up to the age of 14. Without education, man is not a man. What is the difference between the man and other animal? The only difference is man is an educated man who is a thinking person, who is able to see that what is good for the society. In fact, when talking to education, I remember one very good incident. After independence, the first Prime Minister of the country, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, clearly said that we want that every citizen should be educated. Education of the students or the citizen was the major thrust of the Nehru government. Universal education, which opened so many schools, scholarship. Then Max Muller, who was the historian who wrote the biography of the Pandit Nehru, he questioned him, Mr. Nehru, what do you want to achieve by the universal education? Nehru ji said, I want the education in India to develop the scientific temper. You all are scientists people. I want education in India for developing the scientific temper. Max Muller shot the question. What do you mean by scientific temper? Nehru answered, I am not going to define what is the scientific temper. Because it was stated by Bhagwan Buddha 2005 years, 100 years ago. What Bhagwan Buddha said? Don't believe something because it is followed for the years. Don't believe on something because it is told by your teacher. Don't believe on something because it is told by your parents. But you examine that on the rationality. Examine everything. And if it appeals to your mind, then accept. not because somebody is telling. So no, for centuries we are doing this. No. Don't believe that word. Now you question why it is so. That is called reasoning. That Bhagavan Buddha said, Karanama, a thinking Indian. And when every Indian is thinking Indian, he will always question, why should be the communal hater in the country? He is also man, I am also man. His blood is correct, my blood is correct. The vagabonds are created because they are not thinking people, they are not rationalistic people. And that was the intention to bring the education. That way Dr. Ambedkar wanted that education should be the one of the most important agenda of the any government, and it was placed in the constitution. So, this entire struggle of Dr. Ambedkar was not for the upliftment of the depressed classes only, but to make a real, true, independent India, where nobody will be discriminated against because you belong to the particular caste. Nobody will be discriminated against because you belong to some religion. Nobody will be discriminated against because she is a woman. But every citizen will have an equal opportunity for the development of their faculties, equal opportunity to progress, and equal opportunity to live a dignified life as an equal citizen. Equality and liberty was the basic principle on which Dr. Ambedkar led his struggle. The equality he wanted to achieve by the dialectic principle, which was Babasaheb Ambedkar's brainchild, which is the constitution, and liberty, again with the fundamental right, liberty of thought, liberty of expression. If you are not allowed to think, if I say, somebody say, no, you on this festival you dance, forget everything. If I am not allowed, why should I do this all? Liberty of thought. You must think that it has some value for the society. So liberty of thought, and not only that, but liberty of expression, and liberty of the life, a right to live a dignified life as a human being, which was incorporated in the Constitution in Chapter 3, which is one of the most important, is the soul of the Indian Constitution. Let me say. And equally important is the dialectic principle, which was to bring the equality among the different sections of the society. So the democracy become meaningful. You are not guided in your decision by your landlord or your owner. Your decisions are not guided by your affiliation to the particular religious society or religions. It is guided by the sole objective of the dignity of the individual and rationality. So Ambedkar fought for the free nation, for the freedom of the people. Otherwise, this freedom would have been only on the paper. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
I can say we are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. There are so many speakers we have seen